The massive crystal palace of Nexus Prime gleamed under the light of 3 suns. Inside its towering halls, Empress Karatha sat on her throne made of living diamond, her 6 arms folded as she watched the small viewing screen before her. Her skin shimmered like starlight, and her 4 eyes glowed with ancient wisdom and terrible power. "Your Majesty," announced her chief advisor, bowing low. "The creatures from the outer rim have arrived. They call themselves humans." A ripple of laughter spread through the assembled court. Hundreds of Valtherian nobles, each standing over 10 feet tall with their crystalline bodies reflecting the palace lights, found the very word amusing. Humans. Such a simple, almost childish name for a species that dared approach the mighty Valtherian Empire. "Bring them forward," Karatha commanded, her voice echoing like music through the vast chamber. The great doors opened with a sound like thunder. 2 small figures walked into the hall, their footsteps barely audible on the polished floor. Captain Yunwu led the way, wearing his best diplomatic uniform, while Commander Su Jin followed closely behind, carrying a data pad with information about their species. The contrast was almost comical. The 2 humans barely reached the waist height of the smallest Valtherian in the room. Their soft pink skin looked fragile compared to the diamond-hard bodies of their hosts. Where the Valtherians moved with the grace of living statues, the humans seemed clumsy and awkward. "So these are the famous humans we have heard whispers about," Karatha said, leaning forward on her throne. "Tell me, little creatures, what brings you so far from your tiny corner of space?" Hyunwoo stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Your Imperial Majesty, we come seeking friendship between our peoples. Humanity offers trade, knowledge, and peaceful cooperation with the great Valtherian Empire." Another wave of laughter filled the hall. Some of the younger nobles pointed at the humans, whispering jokes about their appearance. One particularly loud courtier called out, "Do they always look so soft? Like uncooked meat." Sujin's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. Hyunwoo continued speaking as if he hadn't heard the insults. "We have established colonies on 12 worlds in our region of space. Our people are skilled in many areas of science and technology. We believe both our species could benefit from working together." 12 worlds. Karatha's laugh was like breaking glass. "Child, my empire spans 12,000 star systems. Your entire civilization could fit in one sector of one of my provinces. What could you possibly offer us?" She gestured with one of her arms toward the great windows that showed the sprawling city below. Millions of Valtherians lived and worked in towers that reached toward the clouds. Massive ships moved through the sky like floating mountains, carrying goods and people across the planet. The display of power was meant to intimidate. "We offer our knowledge of agricultural techniques. That could feed billions," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "Our medical advances that could extend life. Our cultural arts that could enrich your society." Agriculture. The Empress nearly fell from her throne laughing. "We conquered hunger 1,000 years before your species learned to make fire. Medicine? We have achieved near immortality. Culture. What culture could such primitive beings possibly possess?" Commander Su Jin finally spoke up. "Your Majesty, perhaps if you knew more about our history, you would understand that humanity has overcome many challenges. We are stronger than we appear." The entire court exploded into laughter at this. The idea that these tiny, weak creatures could be strong was the funniest thing they had heard in centuries. Some nobles were laughing so hard they had to support themselves against pillars. Karatha wiped tears of mirth from her eyes. "Oh, this is wonderful. You think you are strong? Little pink thing, I could destroy your entire species with a single command to my fleet." "We hope that will not be necessary," Hyunwoo said quietly. "We came here in peace." "Peace," Karatha repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Do you know what I do to species that waste my time? Do you know what happens to creatures who dare to think they are equal to the Valtherian Empire?" She stood from her throne, her massive form casting a shadow over the 2 humans. With a casual gesture, she activated a holographic display showing the outer edge of human space. 3 small colonies appeared as dots of light against the darkness. "Watch carefully, little humans. This is what happens to those who forget their place." The dots began to flash red, Somewhere in space, Valtherian warships were moving toward the human settlements. The first colony went dark. Then the second. Finally, the third disappeared from the display. 3 of your worlds gone in minutes, Karatha said with satisfaction. Thousands of your people turned to dust. This is the price of your arrogance in coming here. Hyunwoo's hands clenched into fists, but his voice remained steady. You have made a terrible mistake, Your Majesty. Have I? Karatha laughed again. And what will you do about it, little human? Will you declare war on my empire with your 12 tiny worlds? We will defend ourselves, Hyunwoo said simply. That is what humans do. The laughter that followed was so loud it shook the crystal walls of the palace. The idea of these pathetic creatures defending themselves against the might of the Valtherian Empire was beyond ridiculous. Guards, escort these comedians back to their little ship, Karatha commanded. Send them home to tell their people what happens when insects try to negotiate with gods. As the humans were led away, the Empress settled back on her throne, still chuckling. She had no idea that she had just made the greatest mistake in the history of her empire. The emergency council meeting began at midnight Earth Standard Time. President Lee Min-soo sat at the head of the table in the underground bunker. Beneath Seoul, his face grave as reports came in from the destroyed colonies. Around him, the most powerful leaders of humanity gathered in person and through holographic projection. 3 million people, whispered Defense Minister Park So-young, staring at the casualty reports. Gone in less than an hour. General Kim, Jae-ho slammed his fist on the table. They think we are weak. They think we will cry and beg for mercy like frightened children. Maybe that's exactly what we should let them think, said a quiet voice from the shadows. Director Han Boram stepped into the light, her intelligence files tucked under her arm. As head of humanity's deep space operations, she knew secrets that even the president didn't fully understand. What do you mean? President Lee asked. Boram activated the room's main display. Instead of showing the destroyed colonies, it showed something else entirely. Hidden bases throughout the solar system lit up like Christmas lights. Massive construction yards that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations revealed their true purpose. Ships the size of cities floated in the darkness of space, their hulls nearly complete. For the past 50 years we have been preparing, Boram explained. Every time we met a new alien species, we learned they all had one thing in common. They judged others by appearance. They saw our soft skin and small size and thought we were harmless. The display zoomed in on one of the hidden shipyards. Workers, in the thousands, moved like ants across the hull of a massive warship. Sparks flew from welding torches as the final armor plates were installed. This is incredible, breathed Admiral Choi Hyunwoo, the same man who had faced the Empress on Nexus Prime. How long have you been building this fleet? Since first contact, with the Centauri traders 20 years ago, Boram replied. For they laughed at us too, called us the soft ones behind our backs. That's when we realized that in a galaxy full of predators, it might be better to look like prey. President Lee stood and walked to the display. He touched the image of the nearest shipyard with his finger. How many ships? 200 supercarriers, each capable of holding 500 fighter craft, 6,000 heavy cruisers, 15,000 destroyers, and 40,000 support vessels. Boram's voice was steady, but everyone could hear the pride underneath. The largest battle fleet in known galactic history. Where did we get the resources? Asked Minister Park. The metal alone would require... The asteroid belt, General Kim interrupted, understanding flooding his face. The mining operations weren't just for show. We've been strip mining every rock between Mars and Jupiter. Boram nodded. 10 billion tons of processed steel, 5 billion tons of titanium. More rare metals than the rest of the galaxy combined. We turned our entire solar system into a weapons factory. The room fell silent as the truth sank in. While other species had spent centuries conquering and fighting each other, humanity had been quietly building the tools of war on a scale no one had imagined possible. There's more, Boram continued. She pressed another button and the display changed to show personnel files, millions of them. Every human colony, every space station, every mining platform has been training their people for this day. We have 200 million trained soldiers ready for deployment. 200 million? President Lee's voice cracked slightly. Our people wanted revenge for what happened to the colonies, Boram explained. Volunteers came forward by the millions. Farmers became pilots, teachers became gunners, children barely old enough to enlist signed up to serve on the ships. Admiral Zhou stepped forward. What about command structure? You can't run a fleet this size without experienced officers. We've been running war games in secret for decades, General Kim replied. Every major engagement in galactic history has been studied and recreated in simulation. Our officers have fought 10,000 battles that never happened, learning from every mistake and victory of every species we could find records for. The display showed training facilities hidden on the dark side of the moon, on remote asteroids, in the depths of gas giant atmospheres. Humans learning to fight in zero gravity, in toxic atmospheres, in the crushing gravity of heavy worlds, preparing for war against enemies they had never seen. The Valtherians think they destroyed our military capability when they hit the colonies, Boram said. Those were civilian settlements with minimal defenses. They have no idea what's coming. President Lee returned to his seat, but he didn't sit down. How long until the fleet is ready? The first battle group is already moving, Admiral Zhou reported. Admiral Yoon Tae-jun is leading 12 dreadnoughts toward the Rigel system. If we encounter Valtherian forces there, it will be our first real test. And the main fleet? 6 months, Boram replied. 6 months to complete final preparations and move into position around their homeworld. The president looked around the room at the faces of his advisors. These were people who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. Then we have 6 months to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. Outside, the bunker across the solar system, the greatest military machine in galactic history, continued its work. In shipyards hidden in the shadows of planets, the final ships took shape. In training centers buried in asteroids, soldiers prepared for battles that would decide the fate of their species. The Valtherians had awakened something they didn't understand. Humanity was no longer hiding. Commander Velkath couldn't sleep. For 3 weeks, strange reports had been flooding into Valtherian military headquarters from the outer territories. Ships destroyed, entire patrol fleets vanishing without a trace. Each time the survivors spoke of the same impossible thing: human warships. He stood in his private chambers aboard the orbital fortress above Nexus Prime, staring at the data files spread across his desk. The numbers didn't make sense. According to their intelligence, humans had 12 small colonies and maybe a few hundred ships for trade and exploration. But the reports described massive vessels armed with weapons that could cut through Valtherian shields like paper. "Sir," his aide announced through the door, "Empress Karatha requests your immediate presence in the war room." Velkath gathered the files and made his way through the corridors of the fortress. Other officers he passed looked worried. Word was spreading that something was very wrong on the frontier, but no one wanted to admit it out loud. The war room was filled with nervous energy. Dozens of military leaders stood around a massive holographic display, showing the outer edge of Valtherian space. Red dots marked the locations of recent attacks. There were far too many of them. "Velkath," Empress Karatha's voice cut through the chatter. "Tell me these reports are exaggerated. Tell me a handful of primitive humans are not destroying our border fleets." The commander stepped forward, his crystalline skin dim with worry. "Your Majesty, I wish I could, but we have confirmation from 17 separate incidents. Human ships are attacking our forces with weapons and tactics we don't understand." "Impossible," snapped General Thakmor, the Empress's military advisor. "We saw their pathetic vessel when they came begging for peace. It was barely worthy of being called a ship." "That's what troubles me," Velkath replied. He activated a section of the display, showing sensor readings from the latest attack. "This is what destroyed Battle Group 7 near the Vega system. The human ship was over 2 kilometers long and armed with pulse cannons that our shields couldn't stop." The room fell silent. Battle Group 7 had consisted of 30 Valtherian warships. It had been wiped out in less than an hour. "Show me the battle recording," Karatha commanded. The hologram changed to show the final moments of the engagement. A massive human dreadnought appeared on screen, its hull black as space and bristling with weapon ports. It moved with impossible speed for something so large. dodging Valtherian fire while returning devastating volleys of its own. "Look at the design," Velkath pointed to specific features of the human ship. "Those aren't improvised weapons bolted onto a cargo hauler. This is a purpose-built warship. The hull configuration is optimized for battle. The weapon placement shows advanced tactical thinking." Captain So-Young's voice crackled over the communication system as the recording played. "Valtherian vessels, you are in human territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." "Human territory?" General Thakmor laughed bitterly. "Since when do they claim territory beyond their tiny colonies?" The recording continued. The Valtherian commander responded with typical arrogance, demanding the human ship surrender. What happened next shocked everyone in the room. The human dreadnought didn't just fight back, it fought with precision and skill that spoke of years of training and preparation. "Freeze the image there," Velkath ordered. The display stopped on a clear view of the human ship's hull. "Do you see those markings? Those aren't random decorations. They're kill marks. This ship has been in dozens of battles." "But we've never encountered human warships before," protested another officer. "Haven't we?" Velkath pulled up another file. 3 months ago, pirates in the Outer Rim were completely wiped out. We assumed it was a rival gang war. 2 months. Hago the Skarn slavers stopped operating in the border regions. We thought they moved to easier targets. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. While the Valtherians had been laughing at humanity's supposed weakness, human ships had been quietly hunting pirates and slavers throughout their region of space. They had been fighting and winning battles for months, maybe years. "There's more," Velkath continued grimly. He activated another section of the display. "Intelligence reports suggest massive industrial activity in human space. Energy signatures consistent with shipyard operations on a scale that rivals our own construction facilities." Empress Karatha's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you telling me that these creatures have been lying to us, that they have a battle fleet?" "I'm telling you that we may have made a serious error in judgment," Velkath replied carefully. "The humans who visited your court were diplomats, not military commanders. We judged their entire species based on 2 individuals who came seeking peace." The war room erupted in argument. Some officers refused to believe that humans could pose a real threat. Others demanded immediate mobilization of the main fleet. Through it all, Velkath studied the tactical data and felt a growing sense of dread. "Your Majesty," he said, cutting through the noise, "I recommend we send the first battle fleet to investigate these reports personally. If humans truly have advanced warships, we need to know immediately." "Agreed," Karatha decided. "Take 300 of our finest vessels. Find these human ships and crush them. Show the galaxy that no one challenges the Valtherian Empire." As the meeting dispersed and orders were given, Velkath remained behind, staring at the holographic display. Deep in his mind, a terrible thought was growing. What if the humans at the peace conference had been telling the truth? What if they really had come seeking friendship, and the Valtherians had just made enemies of a species far more dangerous than anyone realized? In the depths of space, human ships continued their deadly work, and each victory brought them closer to revealing the full extent of humanity's hidden strength. Admiral Yun Tai-jun stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought, indomitable, watching the Valtherian first battle fleet approach through the darkness of space. 300 enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming like jewels against the stars. It was the most beautiful and terrifying sight he had ever witnessed. "Admiral," reported Captain Li Daun from her position at the tactical station. "Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 12 minutes. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding our surrender." Taejun smiled grimly. Around him, only 11 other human ships waited in the shadow of a dead planet. 12 vessels against 300. The odds would have seemed impossible to any other species in the galaxy, but humans had learned to turn impossible odds into victories. "Put me through to the Valtherian commander," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Velkath's crystalline features. The alien's 4 eyes glowed with confidence and barely contained anger. "Human vessel," Velkath's voice boomed across the communication channel. "I am Commander Velkath of the Valtherian First Battle Fleet. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your ships will be destroyed, and you will be taken to face judgment for your crimes against the Empire." "Commander Velkath, Taijun," replied calmly. "I am Admiral Yoon Taijun of the Human Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Turn your ships around and leave immediately, or face the consequences." The Valtherian commander's laughter echoed through the bridge. "You dare threaten me? Your 12 ships against my 300? You are either very brave or completely insane." "Maybe both," Taijun admitted. "But you should know something, Commander. This isn't a battle, it's a test." "A test?" Velkath's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "We wanted to see if the reports about Valtherian military skills were accurate," Taijun explained. "After this engagement, we'll know exactly what we're dealing with." Before Velkath could respond, Taijun cut the communication. He turned to his crew, all of whom had trained for this moment their entire careers. "All stations prepare for combat. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today. We're fighting for every human who died when they destroyed our colonies." The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of electronic systems. Each crew member focused on their duties, with the intense concentration that had made humanity feared throughout this region of space. "Enemy ships are changing formation," reported Lieutenant Park Min-ho from the sensor station. "They're spreading out to surround us." "Let them," Taijun said quietly. "Tactical, are our surprise packages ready?" Captain Da-un checked her display. "All stealth mines are in position, Admiral. The Valtherians have no idea they're flying into a trap. For weeks, human ships had been secretly placing cloaked explosives throughout this star system. The Valtherians, in their arrogance, had flown directly into the killing zone without bothering to scan for hidden dangers. "Contact our other ships," Taijun ordered. "Execute pattern Delta on my mark." The 12 human dreadnoughts suddenly burst into motion. Instead of forming a defensive line as the Valtherians expected, they scattered in all directions like leaves in a storm. Each ship moved with precision and speed that seemed impossible for vessels their size. "What are they doing?" Velkath demanded from his command ship. "All vessels, open fire, destroy them." The space around the human ships exploded with energy, beams and plasma bursts. The Valtherian fleet unleashed enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But when the light faded, all 12 human ships were still intact, their shields glowing but holding firm. "Impossible," whispered Velkath. "Our weapons should have cut through their defenses like tissue paper." What the Valtherian commander didn't understand was that human shields weren't just energy barriers. They were adaptive systems that learned from each attack, becoming stronger and more efficient with every hit. Human engineers had studied every weapon in the galaxy and designed defenses specifically to counter them. "Now," Taijun said quietly. The hidden mines activated all at once. Explosions bloomed throughout the Valtherian formation like deadly flowers. Dozens of their ships vanished in balls of fire, while others spun helplessly through space with their hulls cracked open. At the same moment, the 12 human dreadnoughts opened fire. Their weapons weren't the crude plasma cannons most species used. These were quantum pulse beams that could tear apart matter at the molecular level. Each shot was perfectly aimed, striking vital systems with surgical precision. "Shields are failing," screamed one of Velkath's officers. "Hull breaches on deck 7 through 15. The Valtherian commander watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were being torn apart by weapons they had never seen before. The humans weren't just fighting, they were demonstrating complete mastery of space warfare. "All ships, retreat!" Velkath finally ordered, his voice cracking with panic. "Emergency jump to hyperspace, get us out of here!" The surviving Valtherian vessels fled in chaos, leaving nearly 200 of their companions burning in the void. Admiral Taijun watched them go with satisfaction. "Send a message to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them the test was successful. The Valtherian military is strong, but not strong enough." As his ships prepared to return to base, Taijun opened a channel to the fleeing Valtherian fleet. "Commander Velkath, take this message to your Empress. What you saw today was just 12 ships. The real fleet is coming, and when it arrives, we will darken the very stars above your homeworld." The revelation was complete. Humanity had shown its true strength, and the galaxy would never be the same. Fleet Admiral Park Jae-min stood on the command bridge of the supercarrier Humanity's Dawn, watching as 200 massive ships moved into position around Nexus Prime. Each vessel was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. The sight was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. "Admiral," reported Commander Kim So-young from her station, "all ships are in position. We have complete orbital control of the Valtherian homeworld." Through the massive viewing windows, Nexus Prime looked like a jewel floating in space. 3 suns cast their light on the crystalline cities below, where billions of Valtherians lived in towers that reached toward the clouds. But today those suns were blocked by the hulls of human warships. "Look at that," whispered Lieutenant Colonel Choi Minji, pointing at the planet's surface. "The entire day side is in shadow. We really did block out their stars." The human fleet had arranged itself in a perfect sphere around the world, each supercarrier positioned so that its massive bulk created an artificial eclipse. From the surface, it would look like the end of the world itself had come calling. "Incoming transmission from the planet," announced Communications Officer Lee Hyun-soo. "It's Empress Karatha herself." The main screen flickered to life, showing the Valtherian ruler on her crystal throne. But something had changed in the weeks since the destruction of her battle fleet. Her once proud posture was slumped with defeat. Her glowing eyes were dim with fear. "Human fleet," she began, her voice no longer filled with arrogance. "I am Empress Karatha of the Valtherian Empire. I wish to discuss terms." Admiral Jamin stepped forward, his uniform crisp and his bearing confident. Behind him, officers from dozens of human worlds stood at attention. They represented every colony, every space station, every group of humans who had suffered under Valtherian attacks. "Your Imperial Majesty," Jamin replied with cold politeness. "I am Fleet Admiral Park Jamin of the Human Defense Force. You wish to teach us our place among the stars. Consider that lesson learned." On the planet's surface, millions of Valtherians looked up at the sky in terror. Their mighty empire, which had conquered thousands of worlds, was now trapped beneath a ceiling of enemy warships. Never in their history had their homeworld been threatened. "What do you want?" Karatha asked, her voice barely steady. "The same thing Captain Hyunwoo asked for months ago," Jamin replied. "Peace, trade, mutual respect between our species." The Empress blinked her 4 eyes in confusion. "You came here with enough firepower to destroy my world, just to ask for peace." "We came here to make sure you understand what peace means," Jamin corrected. "When humans offer friendship, it's genuine. When we're forced to show our strength, it's absolute." Commander So-young stepped up beside the Admiral. "Your Majesty, our species tried diplomacy first. Your response was to murder 3 million innocent civilians. Now you see what happens when you mistake human mercy for human weakness." The communication channel crackled as Karatha struggled to find words. Around her throne room, Valtherian nobles who had once laughed at humanity now cowered in fear. The small, soft creatures they had mocked had become the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "If you wanted to destroy us, you would have done it already," Karatha finally said. "What are your terms?" Admiral Jamin activated a holographic display showing both human and Valtherian space. "First, immediate reparations for the colonies you destroyed. Second, formal recognition of human territory and sovereignty. Third, establishment of trade agreements between our peoples. And if we refuse," asked one of the Valtherian generals, though his voice shook as he spoke, Lieutenant Colonel Minji answered with a cold smile. "Then we'll accept your formal surrender. Instead, your choice." The truth was clear to everyone in both fleets. Humanity had revealed itself as the dominant military power in this region of space. The Valtherians could accept peaceful coexistence or face complete conquest. There were no other options. "We accept your terms," Karatha said quietly. "All of them." But Admiral Jamin wasn't finished. "There's one more thing, Your Majesty. From now on, any species that attacks human civilians will face the same choice you're facing today. We're not conquerors, but we will defend ourselves and our allies." The implications rippled through both fleets. Humanity wasn't just demanding peace with the Valtherians. They were announcing their emergence as a galactic power that would protect the innocent and punish those who preyed on the weak. "The galaxy will hear of this," Karatha warned. "Other empires will not accept human dominance so easily." "Let them come," Jamin replied with quiet confidence. "What you see here is just one of our fleets. Earth has been building for 50 years. We have ships, weapons, and trained personnel that even we haven't used yet." As if to prove his point, the supercarriers around Nexus Prime activated their external lights. 200 massive vessels blazed like new stars, their hulls revealing the true scale of human industrial might. Each ship contained enough firepower to conquer a dozen worlds. "The age of bullying weaker species is over," Admiral Jamin announced. "Humanity has taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of peace." The Valtherian Empire, which had ruled through fear and violence for centuries, officially surrendered to a species they had dismissed as primitive weaklings. As the human fleet maintained its protective formation around Nexus Prime, a new era began in the galaxy. The soft pink creatures had become the strongest force among the stars, and they had achieved it by never forgetting their compassion.